All right, guys, we're gonna get started. So we're gonna be going over CMAs. I think most of us have learned how to use Flex, but this is a good time now. If you guys had questions about specific comp searches, maybe waterfront versus non-waterfront. I just dealt with a house that might be considered waterfront, might not be considered waterfront. I had to give him two different prices based on can you dock a boat, can you not dock a boat, and even from that, I could tell you it's you got to do more research on something like that. I contacted the engineering company, found out how much it was to do soundings, get the median high water levels, and there's some more engineering work that would need to be done. You're talking about probably about $4,000 just to find out if that property can get a dock to get a boat in. So there's a whole bunch of unique circumstances, and I guess at the end of the day, it's coming down to finding out the real information. Because if I didn't know to press in to find out about engineering on that, I probably could have lost a listing. I could have quoted them at a price, non-waterfront, not knowing, and the price difference would probably be about $150,000. So I'll just go through kind of my process and how I do it. I'm sure people do it different ways. So if anybody has any feedback on how you do it, there's probably 3 or 4 different ways through CMA Pro where you can kind of get a report going. Does anybody have a property that they've already listed that they want to use as an example?
I need to do it.
You need to do one?
Yeah.
All right. What's the address?
316 Roberts Avenue, Seaside Park.
316 Roberts. That's why I asked. That's fine. So nobody call 316 Roberts, please. It's Mike Balsamos. You will get fired. All right. So the first thing I do, guys, is go to the tax records. Everybody knows how to get there, right? Realist tax info. If you don't know, now you know. This is actually going to be probably one of your best tools to get some history. So 316 Roberts. So it hasn't been sold in quite some time, 1994. Critical thing here, building square footage. So guys, when you're looking at building square footage, when you're formulating a CMA, usually the rule of thumb I have is you want to go 10% under, 10% over. So that gets you like 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. And that'll hopefully get you a nice average when you do the final CMA report to get you a good price per square footage. So some things that stand out, property size, 45 by 70. So that's going to be something that you try to put into your report. Make sure the properties are, somewhat comparable in size. 4 beds, 2 baths. Let's see, it's listed as a colonial. All right. All right. So one of the neat things you can do, obviously, is clicking in, seeing if anything adjacent sold. I'll always do this. It may not show up in the report because maybe there was a sale about a year out or 2 years out, but those are going to be the most memorable things for this current owner. So if you have comps and they're blocks away and you don't have an idea on what Janice and Richard, the house next door, sold for 542, that's information I'm always going to carry with me because it's going to give them a sense of, oh, this guy does know what's going on here. And it's usually just your immediate block, maybe the 10 to 20 houses, anything that's sold in the last 4 or 5 years, because that's what they're going to talk about. And sometimes this stuff does not show up in a CMA report. Sometimes stuff sells off market. So if you're not going through like the block, 20 homes, 30 homes around, one by one to check, you would get it incomplete in my book. So this is an MLS sale, 685 right here. 5 beds, 2 baths. So again, this is something that's probably not going to come up in the report, but again, now I'm starting to kind of formulate pricing. to figure out like what is the price range. Because usually I do also a search based on price range when I'm doing the CMA. So now we're gonna jump in. So Seaside Park's kind of confusing. So based on how you search it too, you got to make sure that you're putting in the right towns. So we're doing active, coming soon, pending, under contract, closed. In some instances, I will do expireds, off markets, and canceled if I can't get enough data for some reason. I'm gonna go detached, single family, county. So the tricky thing about Seaside Park, guys, is that part of it is also considered Berkeley. And some people put in the wrong information. So when in doubt, just click both. Obviously, now it's going to give you all of Bayville, which is not necessary. So the best tool that you could possibly use is this polygon. So this polygons, you can basically just kind of create whatever area you want to create. Let's see. So I'm going to go up to here. Now we have all the results. Narrowed it down to 36. Let's see. So 36 isn't a ton of results, guys. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll narrow it down even further. Let's just say there's 150 results. You don't want to go through 150 comps. Let's just say. So we'll go down to 3. So even though he's listed as that house is listed as a 4, we'll go to 3, 2, and
When you kind of have an idea of price wise too, like already. You can kind of break it down.
well, it depends. I mean, you just see right here, I just put 3 beds, 2 baths, and nothing now came up. All right. So listed 2 beds, 2 baths, 1,300 square feet. That's a little small. We got an 1,800 square foot, 5 beds, 2 baths. Not sure why this didn't come up when I did the 3 bed 2.
We did 3 full baths, 2 half baths.
Okay, gotcha. 6, 4.5. Obviously, this is way above and beyond what our comp is. So this is not usable. 3,000 square feet. That doesn't make a difference. If the seller wants to talk about this house, great. It's a different buyer. It's not going to be the same buyer. So here's an example of a house you definitely wouldn't include. Let's see. Let me just pull this up because I believe this is a land lease property. So Bayview, so this actually has waterfront views, 4 beds, 2.5 baths. So to me, this doesn't really apply. Similar size house potentially, similar size lot, but this could be way over just based on having the Bayview. So probably not going to include that. That would leave me with no pendings, which I usually like to put 1 pending in there, but we'll kind of go through the close and see what else we can come up with. All right. So 45 by 70, so comparable size lot, 4 beds, 2 baths, 1,800 square feet. This would be a good comp to start with. This one's a little undersized, but 720, a little bit higher than this one, which is bigger square footage. So we'll throw that in. This one built in 1999. So that might be good because you really want to frame everything. You want to get a low comp, medium comp, high comp. So this just kind of blows everything out of the water. This is telling me at 799, you're most likely not going to be above that unless the house was completely redone and the square footage was wrong on the tax records, which does happen from time to time. And let's see. 400 square feet's too big. On the water too big. So right away, we only really have 4 comps. Oh, but now we have some comps down here, 1,600 square feet, 795, 3 and 2 at 800. All right, so we have 6 comps. So now I'm gonna back out and go back to the map. Just kind of see like what's closest to where we're at. Where did Roberts go? There it is. Yeah, so the closest comps to Roberts would be these 3: 205 Beach, 1452 Barnegat, and 105 Midway. So obviously, when you guys are on the island, based on what side of 35 you're at, there might be more value. Obviously, Oceanside, you're going to get more value. If you're on the bay, you might be more value than being stuck in the middle or being right on the corner or right on 35. So there might need to be price adjustments based on that. So out of the 6 comps, so I think I'm going to keep all these comps. You're probably going to go into this appointment, Mike, and you're just going to have to kind of give them a range, because it's going to really be based on what the condition of the house is. So usually what I do, guys, is quick CMA. I'll do 2 different. I'll do 2 different reports. This one's going to give you a lot of the data. So the data is really what's going to be key for you guys to frame your argument for what the value of the house could be and give you a bracket. So price per square footage, as you can see, it's giving you an average price per average square footage that's close to what the subject is, which is critical. That's why you don't want to go under 1,500 or over 2,000, because then it kind of throws everything out of whack. A 2,500 square foot price per square footage is always going to be, for the most part, if it's in the same neighborhood, a little bit less. Again, that'll be based upon condition. If the house is like, completely brand new and all redone. But if it's, let's just say like our new construction that we do with area properties, you guys are looking at a 4,000 square foot house versus a 2,500 square foot house. 2,500 square foot house, 9 times out of 10, the price per square footage is going to be higher, even if the construction grade isn't as great. So we have like 4,000 square foot houses. We're putting, elevators in and bigger kitchens and bigger bathrooms, higher end flooring, but that doesn't matter. When you break it down to a price per square footage, the lower price per square footage comps are usually a higher number. So we're coming out with a bracket of like 465 to 531, just based on this report. Average sold price 798. So you're right around that $800,000 price point. So when you're going into that listing appointment,
Where you kept it.
Dolores, when you're going on that listing appointment, this is probably the last thing that you guys are going to go over. You're going to want to go through the house. You're going to want to kind of get a feel of like, what is the condition, what things potentially need to be upgraded before you can figure things out. What I do, I'll highlight with like a highlighter certain aspects of the CMA that I want the clients to focus on. Because if you guys just hand them the CMA 3 up, their eyes are going to be all over the place. With the main thing that they're going to look at, they're going to look at the listing price. That's mostly what they're concerned with. Oh, this one was listed at this price. They don't understand that, the price on the bottom is actually what the house closed at. So highlight what you think is potentially better about that property. So if this house, as you can see, 1,872 square feet, this house is bigger, I want to highlight that, because if they're saying 995, they also need to understand that the house is actually bigger. And what I'll actually do is write down, you have the price per square footage averages here. And I'll go and I'll actually write the price per square footage on each and every house, just so that they understand that, that the numbers are going to be different. You can't just average it and just say, oh, 531, that's what all these houses are. Each house is going to be unique and different. And that way, when I'm sitting at the table, guys, if let's just say 205 Beach, like I look through the pictures, I remember the pictures, I'm going to take notes. Maybe if this 205 Beach has a new kitchen and a new bath, I'm going to write that note right on the CMA, new kitchen, new bath. because 9 times out of 10, by the time I go on the appointment, because I pulled this, days before, weeks before, I might not remember all this stuff. But when I'm sitting down, I remember, 205 Beach, new kitchen, new bath. You also have a new kitchen, new bath. These houses are pretty similar. I already have the price per square footage figured out. And I know I could just compute it. Now I know what the subject is. The subject 1,600 square feet. I could say, all right, you're a little bit smaller based on price per square footage. This is where you'd be at in comparison to 205 Beach. And then from there, you're going to make, whatever adjustments you might need to make. So, if it's got a new furnace or a new roof, you might be able to add a little bit more value to things like that. Most of the times buyers aren't too concerned with that. When they're looking at homes, those are just kind of maintenance items. But, new kitchens, new baths, finished basements, in-ground pools, all those things, you need to account for those in the report. Especially if you have something like this, where every single house here is like different and unique. So it's going to be, this is going to be a tricky comp for Mike to pull. He's just going to probably most likely give him a range. You might be 7 to 10%, range wise, 750 to 8, again, depending on condition. If the house is, destroyed, you're not going to give them that range. You're going to be lower. So that's why it's important when you're going into the appointment, not to really have anything written out as far as like where you think the house is going to be. You want to kind of do that after you walk through. And most times, me personally, and I know a lot of people like to walk out the door with the listing. I usually say, let me go back, let me think about it. I don't want to be put under pressure personally to give them a number right then and there, because that's their first impression of you. And they're 9 times out of 10 going to hold you to that number. And if you are feeling under pressure to give them a number, just give them a range, give them a ballpark, say, I'm going to take this back to my office. I'm going to make these adjustments. I'm going to give you a full report. And, then I'm going to give you my marketing strategy, my pricing point, and everything that I'm going to do for you. I think that gives you also a reason to follow up with that client and have them actually return your calls. Because if they are meeting with a bunch of other realtors, chances are, if you just hand over the full report and you tell them that's what the number is, and then are also meeting with somebody today and tomorrow and the next day, and somebody has a different number that's higher, you might not get the call back. You might not be able to say, oh no, I did, some adjustments and now I want to change my number. You're kind of going to look dumb at that point, because you're changing your number based on a conversation of them saying, well, I met with somebody else and they thought it was higher. I never want to be put in that position where I'm changing my number because somebody else said something else.
I think sometimes it's important for them to let them think at least that you didn't have a number when you walked in, that they helped you come up with that number, because then if down the road you need to do a price adjustment or something, you're adjusting our number that we came up with.
Right.
Not the number I gave them. Now I look like I was wrong from the beginning.
True.
What's the window of time as far as like moving that conversation?
Usually within 24 hours. Yeah, you don't want to go too longer than that. And I mean, I would ask them, are you meeting with somebody else? If they say, yeah, no, I'm meeting with somebody on Thursday or Friday, and you could ask them, well, when's a good time for me to follow up with you? Because they, you could call them Thursday, and if you can't get them on the phone, at least they're probably meeting with other people, so they may not want to talk to you until they meet with everybody. If you give them your number before they are finished meeting with everybody, they might use that number in that conversation. Oh, well, this agent told me this. Oh, well, I think it's higher. You could just have lost the business just by that. So try to figure out if they're meeting with people, and then, try to at least have that conversation after they're done meeting with other agents. Because to me, that could be your last shot to get the business. And at least if they meet with the agents and they say, oh, well, this agent told me this, at least you could have this report and say, well, based upon everything that I'm seeing and the adjustments that I'm making, you possibly could get that price, but it's going to be up to an appraiser to validate it. It's going to be up to buyers to agree, with that value. And it also depends on what's on the market. So if there's not a ton of actives on the market, you could say, yeah, it's possible, because there's only 2 other houses that are like in kind. We're still going to get showings, and we can make an adjustment based on that. If you have a house and there's 15 other actives and they're all like in kinds, and you're also going to be the highest, that's going to be a problem. I always tell my sellers, like, you want to be in the top 5 at the least. Top 5 of homes on the market in your price point with, similar, bedrooms, bathrooms, whether you have a pool or a garage or basement, whatever those amenities are, you want to make sure you're in the top 5, because you just think buyer psychology. Buyers are going to look at the top 3 or the top 5 homes that are on the market. They don't look at the top 15. Like, who says, like, I want to see the top 15 homes? They narrow it down on their own for the most part. So whether it's your amenities is what's going to stand out, or your price is what's going to stand out, or maybe your square footage is bigger and that's going to stand out. You want to get the most buyers through the door, so obviously you can get the highest price. Your question?
Sorry, I don't know this.
Yes.
But are you able to add the listing pictures to?
Yep.
the bank? Because I find. that a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
times, especially if you're showing them, this house is in much better condition. And
Yep.
that's why they got that price.
Yeah, so this, like I said, I use this as almost for data. To me, like, the best thing about this report, and usually depending on how many comps, if you have 10 comps, this is going to be like a 4-page report. But the data here is really all I want. Like the top part, I'm going to do the price per square footage, make a couple notes. This is kind of more for me.
But you would
I'll give
show
them a
the
copy.
picture
Mhm.
that The house is in much better condition.
Yeah, so there's another version of the CMA. Let's see. Right here. So you just hit use selected.
This way, when I do mine.
All right. There you go. You got it, Mikey. So you're gonna do the let's see, the full CMA type. And you can make the adjustments. You could actually just print the listings. I mean, it depends. Like, if you want 3 pictures, you have the option for 3 pictures. There's a version that has, like, 9 or 12 pictures.
The description and material.
Yeah, you could print out the individual listings. It just depends on what you want to do. Yeah. So this system's pretty good. I think we've had this system for at least 12, 13 years now. I don't know. I think it's the best system. I don't know if anybody likes Bright better or Bright's terrible. Okay. I say Bright's terrible because I don't know how to use it as well, but
I couldn't figure it out.
yeah.
I don't bring my iPad and just pull those things up as well too. That's like good thing I had a picture right there. But,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, what I usually do too is I'll email this to myself when I'm done, so I have that link, so I can pull it up on my phone. You could pull up the pictures if you need to, or go on the iPad like John's saying. And that's something you could easily forward it to them right at the meeting as well. I don't do it before the meeting because, again, I might want to adjust those comps and really not want them to focus on that report, because I've walked into some houses and I'm like, okay, this is a lot different than what you described it. Like, this report has to be modified. Like, I can't use this report. But that's why it's kind of like you have ranges and then you're kind of safe from there. You're not pinpointing, hey, like I've seen people walk or have heard of people that walk in and they have this full report and they have like a value kind of already. This is what we predict the value to be. What do you, Zillow? You didn't walk into the house yet. And that's another thing is I'll actually go on Zillow and I want to know what Zillow's estimate is, because that's what most sellers think their house is worth. I also want to know what their assessment for taxes is. That's something where I just walked into the appointment and, oh, I got the town says, it's 860. And I'm like, well, no, it's not 860. You're actually being taxed higher. You should do a tax appeal because there's no way this house is 860. So you got to have that information, because their whole reference possibly of selling could be what is Zillow telling them or what their tax assessment is telling them the value of the property is, which could be incorrect.
Could be, it's all the way.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and if you look, like if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, Zillow has a range.
Right.
But at the top, they just see the number. So everybody just sees the number, and that might inspire them to say, all right, maybe I want to sell my property. But it could be, 10% off, which could lead them to be like, I don't want to sell my property. So you got to understand that going in, that they may have this data that is out there in the world, and they may be basing their decision on selling based on that data. So you have to have a really good case on, why you believe the value is what the value is, because, if you don't know that person and they see Zillow, they're going to think Zillow's more trustworthy than you. So that's why it's important to walk through the house and, take all the notes. And I tell the clients, I take the notes on my phone. Don't mind me. I'm on my phone, but I'm going to be, let's walk through. Be taking notes about everything. So I want to know the age of the windows. I want to know, when was the flooring done? I want to know, did you do the furnace, the HVAC, the roof? How long the bathroom was done, how much it cost when they renovated the bathroom. Just to get an idea in their head. Not that it's important to like list when you list the house and say this was a $15,000 bathroom remodel, but again, I want to know from the seller side, like, why do you think this value is so high? I might not know why they're getting to that number, but if I ask them the questions of how much did all this stuff cost, it could help me figure out like, why their head's where it's at. Anybody else have another property you want to go through, or any questions so far? As I email this to Mike.
A lot of buyers are not, when I sell them a property or when I send them a property, oh, that's overpriced. Everything's, getting all that objection and. Are you being used to buy, are you doing a CMA and buying apartments too?
I mean, me personally, I used to do that a lot, but you got to do one for each house then for the most part. Usually I'm showing 3, 4, 5 houses at a clip. If it was like one house, like I guess once you get to like the luxury or higher end, if you're just showing one house or you've worked with the buyer for quite some time.
Look at 142 Swan Beach. This guy's arguing that it's overpriced. I'm like, well, yeah, that's a really high value market.
Yeah, 3.6 Curtis Point. So your buyer walked through this already?
No, we haven't walked through. He wanted to go see the price.
Yeah, let's
He
take a
wants
look.
that street.
He wants to see if we could go for-
No, he wants to see, he wants that street. His friends live right across the street from this. My previous client was right across the street and he wants something on this street, but whenever I send him anything, he always tells me every single time, no, that's overpriced, no, that's overpriced, no, that's overpriced. I mean, maybe he just, but it's in price.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I was looking in there, 1.8 to 2 million is like a knockdown. So you figure like, well, how much does it cost to build a 3,400 square foot house with a pool on the water? Can't be that too far off. You're probably talking the house itself's got to be worth $1 million. And you pulled the comps?
I did not pull the comps on this one, no, this was literally, we were just chatting and I hadn't gotten to get, I didn't have a chance to push back on him because he was just basically shut me down and said.
Yeah, that's kind of
They came down from 5 million, that house is worth 2 million, that's all.
yeah, it's a unique area. The people that live there, definitely, I feel overvalue the houses, but it's the cool thing about it is you've got waterfront, right? You can hop out of your boat and then you can just walk across to the beach. And it's Manilokin, so it's like, if you look at the distance to the beach, right? It's just a block. If you go down the island, as the island gets bigger, like Normandy Beach, Chadwick Beach, this is a much further walk to the ocean. So there's definitely way more value. And even if you go down the seaside, all the waterfronts, way far away. So that's definitely a unique area where I think that sellers tend to overvalue the properties. But when you're talking about people that just have crazy money, that don't care, it's like find another area that's like this. So it's a supply and demand thing. Yeah, so 3.2 million. So this is brand new, but the Squam Beach one's like has more open water because you're on the cove, so there's extra value being on the cove versus being on, a lagoon.
You want him to go see.
I'd love to buy it. Just because I would like to.
Yeah, so 135 for this knockdown.
3.2.
So just tell him, let's proceed, if you love it, then I'll run some comps. Just
Yeah.
Have you shown him property?
I haven't shown the property, no, I just.
No, have you shown him then?
Yes, I've shown him properties, but he came down a couple times and then the market jumped, like, basically he came down right before COVID jumped everything. Now- now
Yeah, I
we're
mean, look
selling
at
for 2 million, we started
this.
at-
Yeah, I mean, this is why that guy on Squam Beach is asking for 3.2, because this house on Squam Beach was 5.2. He's definitely seeing like there's more value, obviously being on the cove. And there's nothing, I mean, the thing is, right, there's nothing available. It's rare that houses come up for sale over there.
Yeah.
So, and every house is almost, it's different. Every house is unique over there. So,
Here, his friend, so like, you're literally across the street from your friend, like, I can't add more value to this house than that.
yeah.
This is the exact location you want.
I mean, look at this house. This closed for 2.6.
No, I know, that, and I know you get a car, I'm not using it.
This house is 2.6 and it looks like it's still pretty original, built in 1980. I mean, it looks like, I mean, they've, cleaned it up a little bit, but it's nothing crazy. So I'd say that house is definitely worth over 2.6.
Guess you just always gonna have those buyers that just can't wrap their head around the inflation in general.
Yeah. Let's see. All right. So the thing when you guys are talking to buyers, when they're making their offers and appraisals and stuff like that. So obviously pulling comps is very important when you're making these offers. And if you want the deals to stay together. I always have this conversation with the client. I always make sure before they make an offer, they get a CMA. The CMA kind of shows them what the differences are between the different houses that, they may have sold already. It may be different, but here's how the mortgage company and the appraiser are going to look at it. Here's how they're going to value it. And I want them confident that either the home's going to appraise based upon that report, or if it possibly is not, I'm going to let them know there's a chance that it may not appraise. And here's the reasons why. This house is definitely could be greater than the other houses, and it could be worth, more than those houses based on what's on the active market. But, just so you guys know, the bank doesn't necessarily put more value into like this property has, double the size, right? Like all the other subject properties in the area are a quarter acre. This isn't half an acre. So the seller thinks that that's worth $50,000 more. The buyer may agree. The buyer may say, yeah, I'd pay 50,000 more because I can do A, B, and C with the property. The bank doesn't care. The bank may give you, the appraiser may give you $5,000 in value. Unless you could subdivide. You can subdivide the property. That's a whole different conversation, but then that's a whole different set of things that you need in order to substantiate the value. They're not just going to assume the property is able to be subdivided. They're going to want to see a subdivision. Anybody else run into issues lately with appraisers or comps or? Yeah.
Prices change so much in that time frame.
Right.
Big issue. Like, yeah, a year ago it did sell for more. We're at a different time right now. Everything's not selling for more like it was.
Yeah, not as much so. I think it's easier right now to do appraisals than it was last year for sure, because we were in a ascending market where we were seeing, 10 to 20% above, the last comps. And I don't know, the appraisers were making it work. I don't know. I mean, that was in California. I know you guys deal with that in different seasons.
I would bring comps
Mhm.
every appraisal. It's just like, oh, I'm sure you found these.
Right, yeah.
Just in case, because there's always maybe something negative. So I always bring comps to it.
Yeah, and they may not take them, and that's fine.
That's fine.
But
I show it.
if you're finding that it might be a tricky appraiser or appraisal, what you definitely want to do is look into tax records to search to see if there's off-market sales. I can tell you, I sold a brand new $1.4 million house to a mortgage broker who owned a mortgage company. 4 months after it expired with another agent. And the reason they didn't come to a deal with that other agent was there was no comps. It was new construction. It was a luxury home. And the agent didn't know to look in the tax records to see that there's another community that was built. And these houses were sold off market. So when I found those comps and I showed them, I'm like, look, these are the houses that sold. This is, Vincenzo Drive. Like there's more value here. As soon as they saw those comps, they agreed, and we did the deal, and we double-sided the deal.
We use that to put it into the MLS for information purposes only,
No,
so it doesn't.
no. So, I could show you guys. So it was a street called Sonoma and Dana Court, if you guys are familiar, and Tom's River. A lot of those were off market. And once I provided that data again to a mortgage broker who also has, access to this information and should be a little bit smarter than, your average buyer. I pulled, there was like a comp in here for like 1-1 or 1-2. And again, these houses were considered to be inferior to this house here I sold on Vincenzo. And just by having that, they agreed. And then also I needed to take that data and share it, like you said, with the appraiser. And we appraised. And that's when there was really nothing going over $1 million in North Dover. So, again, you've got to do some more due diligence. I can show you guys how to kind of do that real quick. All right. So let me just use that as an example. So do 4 to 6 bedrooms. We'll do, I was doing 4,000 to 7,000 square feet in Tom's River. You can pick your recording date. So you just hit the last 6 months, sales price. I needed a comp over 1-2. Just do 2 million. And let's do your built. Yeah, so this is going to populate all the different comps. Now, again, these might have closed on the MLS, but this is that extra due diligence where you could find that one comp. Yeah, so these were all MLS sales. But I would do this search too as you're, doing your CMA. You just saw it took me, not even a minute to pull this report up. And if you find that extra piece of data, and if you're going on these listing appointments and you're the only one that found that extra comp that the seller actually knew about because he was friends with them or he heard about this sale and no other agents in the room took that opportunity to pull that comp. And now that comp, you're not going to be able to necessarily throw that into the CMA, but you can make your adjustments based upon that, and you can just click this report and print it.
Another quick question.
Mm-hmm.
So on your intranet where you do your listing presentation,
Mhm.
right? So you have your template. Is your MLS not connected to your intranet? Where you can't pull the comps?
This isn't. There are some systems that you can pay for.
This is not.
This is not. What you can do though is we have like the listing books. I don't know if you've seen those. So you could create the whole listing presentation and then just email this to the marketing department and they'll actually put it into listing book for you.
Through the MLS, not through your, because
Mhm.
on Compass, it's all in one, they're connected. So it automatically just pulls the comps for us, and then we pick and choose which ones we, but our MLS is connected
Mhm.
to the internet, but Remax is not.
Would that be?
Cloud CMA, you could do it with, there's a company called Remind that you can do it with. Yeah.
I mean, specifically when you go into your listing presentation for your Remax
Mhm.
intranet, is that what it's called?
Yeah, no, that's different.
It's not-
Yeah, it's not connected to Flax. Yeah,
On page 4 going forward?
I don't know. That's a whole different realm. And I mean, we're gonna go into cloud CMAs and teach how to kind of do that stuff, but we are gonna wait and see how KV Core integrates with CMAs.
Because I would do it all in one.
Mhm.
So my listing presentation and then at the end it goes right into,
Yeah,
but it's in the same format. So if I had to put this in.
Right, it looks like it matches. Yeah,
so
yeah.
I wanted to see if we could make it where it was, but
Mhm.
we cannot.
Not at the moment. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Hopefully with KV Core integration, there'll be some things where, you press a couple buttons. But again, I think this is a good routine. You want to get in the habit of not necessarily relying on tech to pull all the data.
What was more aesthetic? It's more
Oh, the look of it,
keep
right.
all, yeah, uniform, I like it, so then they keep when you turn the pages, that's why I was asking.
Gotcha,
pictures,
gotcha.
Because I could have in there, here's the price, here's the description, now here's 10 pictures, turn the page, here's the next one.
Yeah.
But it was all in the same, it looked exactly the same, there's no.
Yeah, that might be something that the new system's going to be able to kind of help us do. But what's that? So that's a separate report, but he's saying like the whole listing presentation, kind of the look and feel of it
It's-
matches
it's
with the
same from
report.
beginning to the end. So the-
Yeah,
The listings would just go right into, so you go from your description, company description, to what I do for you, to my marketing, to here are the comps.
Right.
But it all looks exactly the same.
yeah. Yeah, and that's why honestly, I like to just use the that CMA 3 up with the data. And then what I'll do is as far as the pictures go, like I like to show that stuff on my phone or on an iPad. Because what I also show is like my marketing, my drone, the way my video looks, the social media stuff that I do. And I can kind of do that all within the same thing instead of doing it on print.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, there's definitely different ways to approach it, but
Yeah, I just wasn't sure.
yeah,
Systems were connected.
no, not yet. Anybody else have any other questions or any tips that you guys have?
I did comps yesterday for a house in Howell. The
Mhm.
neighborhood was all built at the same time, so there was like 3 models. There's 2 different types of 3 bedrooms. Out of 11 comps, only 3 people put the square footage in.
Oh, on the MLS?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I hate
So
that.
when I did the comps, of course, I didn't go that route. I actually mapped and did it the way I usually do, but I know a lot of people try to narrow down by square
Right.
footage and you're not getting anything at that point.
Yeah, that's why the map search is key.
Yeah.
Because the map search, when you guys do the map search, the polygon search, it pulls up everything regardless of square footage. So in your case, like you're saying, if it's a development and like that's the development and there's comps in that development, just do the polygon around that actual development, you'll get everything. Because there are, I don't know, 30 to 40% of the listings I find without square footage, which is the most important thing that we need. So if you guys are putting in the search for square footage and it's not spinning it back out to you, you're going to be missing comps. And it's going to it could really throw off your report. So that's why it's important to really just take your time with it. Don't rush it and make sure you get every single piece of data that you can possibly get. Do the tax search with the off market houses just to find out. Do the MLS, do the polygon, do the CMA 3 up, get your averages, and then listen.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Usually just 6 months, unless I have like an overwhelming amount of data, then I'll try to go back just 3 months. So it just depends on like what the subject is. So yeah. Yeah, you want to try to be in this market where everything's kind of up and down and kind of going crazy. You want, as little time as possible as you can to capture kind of what's happening today. Like 6 months may not matter, but at the same time, you might want to do 2 different reports, a 6-month report and a 3-month report, because what happened 6 months ago, that might be very relevant in their head. They may say like, oh yes, but this happened 6 months ago. Well, yeah, 6 months ago, here's the average 6 months ago versus here's the average, 3 months. This is the trend. So we've got to follow the trend. And if there's like a, 5% difference, that's something now you could actually show them. There's a change in the market. It's either up 5% or it's down 5%. Whatever happened 6 months ago doesn't necessarily matter anymore. But it all comes down to really just finding the best comps. And then let's just say there was the exact same house and they had the exact same upgrades and one was sold for a year ago or 6 months ago, and it's not the freshest comp, but it's the one that's the most like to that house. And let's say that house had gotten way over what all the houses that sold over the last 6 months got for. That's something I would say is probably still relevant. You find that a lot in like the biggest house on the block, right? And let's just say every house is 35 to 37, but this house is 4,000 because they did an addition or something like that. You may have to go outside that development. You may want to then compare that to other 4,000 square foot homes in other developments, because that could be a different buyer. And you might want to be able to make those adjustments between those different communities. So for instance, again, I'll use Vincenzo because it's on the screen. Vincenzo is always gonna, pull a premium. These are all 4,000 square foot homes ranging, some are, 6,000-7,000. There's a house that just closed there. This house right here, 2.6 million, which is like way out of left field for the market down there. The market was averaging like 1.5 to 2. And that's like a really good condition house. And this house just like ruined the market or ruined the comps. Somebody came in, that house is perfect. They're willing to pay for it. And now guess what's happening? All my clients, I let them know about it. And they're, thinking, oh, well, the market just instantly went up. Well, that was one sale. You can't really rely on just one sale carrying the entire market. That buyer, I'm going to assume, was like not from the area. But at the same time, supply and demand. How many 7,000 square foot houses were on the market at that time?
Areas too is a place where the value to that buyer is gonna be.
Careful.
Well,
Careful.
I'm being honest, like.
No, I know. I'm kidding.
Live in that particular location.
Yeah.
Whatever they have to pay to get that house.
Yep.
It's-
Yeah, but I have a couple clients in those neighborhoods, and they're like, now it's time to sell. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's throw it up, because that instantly brought everybody's value up in my opinion. Now, will people actually buy a new house coming on the market just based on that one sale? Probably not. They're going to look at it as an anomaly, but you never know. Right now, supply levels are low, guys. I think the trend throughout the rest of the year, I think we're going to see probably 30% less houses sell this year compared to last year. So just think about that overall. Like, what does that mean in your guys' numbers compared to last year? What did you do? Take 30% off. If you guys don't change the way you're approaching getting listings or closing deals, you could be 30% down this year. It's going to happen. It's just, you got to work harder now. Like, I think the last 2 years, everybody's business that, went up, that maybe you didn't spend more money marketing, you didn't spend more money advertising, your business just went up, right? It was unexplainable, which is great, right? To me, that was like a bonus. I don't think you can expect that your business is just going to go up this year, guys. So, it's going to be time to really dig in, make more phone calls, get more systems, get more routines down, more marketing, more advertising. I could tell you, I'm having conversations with lots of agents, and they're like, well, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Well, if we're saying that, and we're Remax and, we're averaging, more sales, just think about the agents that are at these other brands that they're only doing 4 or 5 deals a year. And now they're going to be doing 1 or 2 deals. They have more time than us. So I think we really need to dig in this year to if you want to do more business. It's market's not falling. I'm not seeing prices falling. I'm still seeing bidding wars happen. I'm still seeing prices actually even up against last year. But mindset wise, if I'm a seller and the prices are flat and the interest rates are 6%, like, what's motivating me to sell right now? There's not much, for me to go buy something else in the same market, to lose a 2% rate, a 3% rate, a 4% rate, even a 5% rate, to go buy something else when the market, like, you're buying in the same market. You could potentially buy a $200,000 house that's worth $200,000 more in this market, sell your house, and then end up paying, I don't know, $2,500 more a month for your mortgage based on your interest rate. So financially, I'm thinking just doesn't make sense for a lot of people to move now where it did over the past couple of years. Everybody saw the prices just shoot up. Interest rates were low. So it was like, okay, it's a good time to, to transfer equity. I can lock in and, 30-year mortgage at a 3% rate or a 4% rate. It's a great investment. Planning on a 30-year mortgage at a 6% rate right now, people have to do it because, I can tell you this. I don't know if you guys are seeing it, but the rental rates are sky high. That's really just catching up from what the market was, because now you're seeing all the evictions happen and people leaving and then people resetting with those investment properties, putting them on the market. I've heard of bidding wars on rental properties, which is I've never heard of that before. And that's happening. Like right now, it's happening. So if you guys have investors, I would start talking to anybody that's an investor, talking with your clients that may have a lot of equity in their homes, and talk to them about, hey, would you potentially be looking for an investment property, whether it's an Airbnb property, a secondary property, things like that. You can pick up a couple deals that way. I know I've done that. Just having those conversations and showing them what the market's doing, because that rental market is lagging. And I think most clients, if you looked at houses last year, maybe they needed work or they were cheap. If you were looking at what the rental rates were then versus where they are now, like if you had bought that property, it was easily going to pay for itself, and you're easily going to make, a couple $100 a month based upon today's rental market. So there's some adjustments being made. I can tell you, at least in the Ocean County area, there's a lot of people buying properties to rent. So those are some quick tips if you're finding you guys, you don't have a lot of business right now. Just have conversations with your past clients, and make sure you're running today's numbers. Knowing the market today is super important. One of the instances where one of my clients just bought an investment property, bought his first one, had been talking about it for years, and I told him, you got to do it. November, December, he's thinking, oh, the market's still going to go down. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Buy a house every year, and it doesn't matter what the market does. I can tell you this, the rental rate and everything's going to cover it. You buy this house today, and the value we know is going to go up by the remodel, and you're sitting on equity. So he finally dug in after like 3 or 4 years, finally pulled the trigger. And now he's like, oh, thank God I did it. Because now after December going into January, like that house probably went up 10% in value, just like that, because everybody in January was like, okay, we still got to buy a house. The rates are still what they are. They're not going to really move up and down, much further. Rental rates are up. So now you're seeing, that low 200 range, like very tough to find anything. $300,000 price point, very tough to find anything. But do the math. Those houses are renting now for $3,000, $3,500 for a $400,000 house. It's expensive. So what are you going to do? You're going to rent, you're going to buy, make sure that your clients are aware. I've had a couple people that came to me that were looking for rentals, turned them into buyers, said, it's not worth it. You're going to get into a rental. It's going to be, $3,000, $3,500. Let's get you a mortgage. Converted 2 buyers over the past 2 months by having that conversation. I mean, that's always a simple conversation, I feel, but make sure you guys are having those conversations with past clients, new clients, and I guess that's it, unless anybody has any other questions. Anybody in the peanut gallery on Zoom have anything you want to go ahead, Anita? I saw you raise your hand. We can't hear you.
It's just saying all good. I just said all good.
All good. Everybody here good? In the chat. Oh yeah. Yeah, Gabriella said RPR. Good. Like they asked for the seller number they had in mind, but only in person, so I can better gauge. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask the seller what they're thinking value wise, so you can get an idea on, you know, how they're gonna take the your price point. Yeah. All right, guys. So that's it. You guys are in the house. Yes,
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, Kaz. You don't have anything to add, Kaz? You're a wealth of information.
I usually, when I first sit down, I ask them about that, how much you think the house is worth. I said, I already have a number in my book, so whatever you say is not gonna influence my number.
Mhm.
Just to get a gauge, it's, a lot of times they're actually lower,
Yeah,
believe
it's
it or not.
always good to have good news and be like, you're 100,000 under. That's always a great conversation. So you can deliver that a little bit differently, knowing that. All right, guys. So that's it, unless anybody has any other questions. And if we're in Spring Lake, we're having lunch. Zoom world, enjoy your peanut butter and jelly. Later, guys.
I'm having fluffernutter.
Fluffinator. Ooh, that's old school. You toast, no toast?
Toast, wheat bread.
There you go. Good man. Good man. All right, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Maybe we'll get some lunch and then we can.